All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today for our fall HCU community meetup. We have had a extremely busy 3 months, and as I was preparing for this meeting, it kind of it it's unbelievable how fast everything goes. Our last community meetup was in July, and at that point, we had accomplished a lot. We were just coming off our meeting, and we are hoping to be able to do these on a quarterly basis to keep you up to date. So our next one will be in December as well. So we're going to go quickly through some slides here that just kind of share what we've been up to, and then we'll launch into things. All right. I'm operating two monitors, so bear with me here. All right, so a quick visit of what are four different areas that we really work on. We have community engagement, and that is creating connections, advocacy and awareness, research, and fundraising. These were committees that we had set up in January earlier this year, and we're working on slowly reestablishing them to make sure that we're doing each of these committees justice. Currently, we are have our fundraising committee. That one never was disbanded, and so we are working on rebuilding our advocacy and awareness committee. And soon we are going to be putting together the community engagement and research, but you probably won't get to hear much of an update from them till 2025, but we do have updates from what we've been doing in the meantime. And so the first area that we have up here is our community engagement, which this is always one of my favorites. And so this past September, Liz and I were on the road quite a bit. And during Newborn Screening Awareness Month, we got to travel to Georgia. And one of the additional trips that we took that didn't take us too far out of Atlanta was we got to meet up with Ben and his wife, Lindsay, and they run the HCNU podcast, and that is the picture on your left. And then while we were there, we got to meet a newly diagnosed family. The mom's name is Rachel, and the dad is Benji, and that is their tiny little baby Carter. We are hoping that as time progresses, we are able to do these smaller, little intimate meetups with the families. I think Liz can attest to this, that these conversations are so meaningful, not just to us, but also to the families affected. And if we can get even more people, that's wonderful. But it was really wonderful just to kind of be able to take a moment outside of the event that we were there for and just kind of get to actually communicate in person with our community, because we don't really get to do that very often outside of conferences. And then from Atlanta, I went to New Hampshire. Flock is an organization that used to be under the name PKU News, and they rebranded earlier this year. And they are now covering all disorders with low protein diets. So inborn errors of low protein metabolism. And there, I was able to participate in their camp, not just as a patient, but also as a vendor. You can kind of see in that middle top picture, they had a vendor fair where we were able to share some of our resources and a little bit about our community with different participants from that event. So this one is in New Hampshire. It was a beautiful setting. And this one takes place in September, but they also have a family camp on the West Coast in Oregon in June. And I will tell you that as a patient, this was an amazing event. There was a lot of families there with young kids. And I would highly encourage, if you have a type of homocystinuria that requires a low protein diet, to try and attend at least once. It's an amazing experience. And I am so grateful for the relationships that I have been able to establish. While I was there, I got to learn a lot about Flock's mission and what they're doing to drive data and science forward for those with inborn errors of protein metabolism. Oh, on the wrong thing here. So what's next? So we have a few things that we're working on. This time of the year, we're always looking forward into the next year. And so we do have our next HCU community meetup December 15th. And that will be our last one for the year because after that, we start 2025. And in 2025, we will continue our quarterly virtual meetups, but we are also hoping to do a couple in person. We know for sure that Texas is on our list of places, and we are hoping to partner with one other state. So if you are interested in being in helping set that up and you think there's a lot of patients within your state or region, we would be happy to work that out with you and see if that's feasible. And then 2026, we are looking forward to our next expert patient meeting that will look a little bit different. We are looking at a different weekend, just as a heads up to everyone. It will be either earlier in June or in more towards the middle of July, but it looks like it's leaning more towards the middle of July, just because we want to make sure kids are clear of the school year. Oh, where is my mouse? Oh, all right, there we go. So, that went the wrong way. So advocacy and awareness. September and October are both very busy awareness months for HCU. September is Newborn Screening Awareness Month, and it's a cause very near and dear to us as 50% of classical homocystinuria patients are missed by newborn screening, and it's even higher for those with cobalamin disorders and severe MTHFR. So we do a lot of work in this area. And so in September, on the virtual side, we shared a ton of infographics and facts. And we pulled that data from our data collection program that we have with RareX. If you're not part of it, please join. The more patients we get enrolled and the more they fill out these surveys, the more we understand the needs of our community. And even our podcast episodes were centered around newborn screening. So all things kind of centered around newborn screening for Newborn Screening Awareness Month. All right, so this is my favorite slide in this area here. So while we engaged a lot on social media, Liz did a phenomenal job taking that on. Liz and I both headed off to Atlanta for Newborn Screening Boot Camp, hosted by Every Life Foundation and Expecting Health. On the first day we were there, we got to tour the CDC's newborn screening lab, where we got to meet the amazing team who is working to improve screening for the homocystinurias, and their new methods that they're working to develop wouldn't just fix the issues for classical homocystinuria, but it would also for cobalamin disorders and severe MTHFR, which is so exciting to us. And then so that picture on the left is 4 of the people that are in their lab working on this. But the 2 in the back on the left is Austin Pickens, and he has been a phenomenal champion of our community. He sat in on a panel with us the following day, and then Costas is the gentleman in the back on the right, and he's also been, but there's about 3 other people. I should mention Carla Cuthbert from the CDC. She's the Chief Newborn Screening Division Head, and she's really been moving this forward for us with her team, along with there's 2 women, and I'm always mispronounced. Liz, you can jump on here and help me, but Sam is one of them, and I'm always Elia, thank you, is the other. And I wish the CDC is very specific about pictures, so this isn't even a picture that we took. This is a picture that they were able to share with us, but we were not allowed to take any pictures while we were there, which is sad because it was an experience I will never forget myself. And then day 2, Liz, myself, and then Austin, we sat on a panel and talked about how HCU Network America has partnered with the CDC to bring change. And we were the first patient advocacy group to partner with the CDC to do something like this. And so it's really exciting to be able to be leaders in the newborn screening space and bring this opportunity forward for other patient groups who are looking to improve newborn screening. So we do have a few call to action items that we also shared during Newborn Screening Month. And while Newborn Screening Month is over, it's never too late to make change for newborn screening in our community. So the first call to action is share your newborn screening with us. And the second is, if you haven't already, to sign our petition to show support of newborn screening revisions. We are working very diligently state by state to speak with them and address these. And then share our Miss Newborn Screening Survey with your clinic as well. And so if you need the links to those, we are happy to circulate those. All right. September didn't end though. It kept going. And so about a week later, Liz was in Georgia again. She does not live in Georgia. So she went back to home to South Carolina, left again, and went back to Georgia. And this time it was for SIMD NAMA, which stands for the Society of Inherited Metabolic Disorders North American Metabolic Academy. And this is a week-long boot camp for fellows and residents hoping to learn more about metabolic genetics. Between their lectures and workshops, they got to visit with Liz, and she was able to share about our community, our organization, and some of the amazing resources we have. This is a very unique group of people in genetics because they're not yet completely independently operating. So this is like our next generation of metabolic geneticists. So they're fresh, they're young, they're excited to learn. And there's not too many opportunities like this for them and for us. So this is one of the things that we really look forward to as an organization. And so we love the engagement that we get out of this. And so this helps us kind of help these new doctors recognize homocystinuria when they see it and know what tools and programs and resources are available for their patients and families. And I would say we've had really great success so far with our interactions. I believe this was our third year. I went our first, and Liz has gone now 2 times. So what is next is it's HCU Awareness Month, if you are not aware. So October is always HCU Awareness Month. We launched new Go Blue for HCU merch. And then we are sharing different things on social media. This past week was the introduction to the homocysteinurias. Next week will be classical homocystinuria, then followed by cobalamin defects, and then severe MTHFR, and then we recap. And so these are some activities we encourage you to participate in. So if you have classical homocystinuria next week, we'll have an infographic you can reshare. And then you can keep sharing some of these things, but then we have some other activities for you to do that are more personalized as well. If you need any help with direction, message us. Again, we'll be happy to help if you want to get a head start. So, research, that's our next area of focus here. So we don't have a proper research committee yet, but it doesn't mean we've just stopped and abandoned that area. There's a lot happening in this space, and we continue to be a partner. So in September is one of the largest metabolic conferences in the world. It is the Society for the Study of Inborn Errors of Metabolism, and metabolic geneticists from all around the world gather together. This year, they had over 3,000 participants. And there was over a dozen posters on the different types of homocystinuria, some related to newborn screening, some related to better understanding, some developed to new therapies in development. And so I have one of each for, I don't think you can see my mouse here. Oh, that went the wrong way. Over here, if you can see my mouse, that's classical, and then cobalamin G, which also goes by methionine synthase deficiency, and then severe MTHFR. Excitingly, while we were there, we ran into Dr. McCorvey, which makes sense. If we're going to run into him anywhere, it would be at this conference. And Dr. McCorvey is a researcher who's working on crystallography, which is extremely complicated. He tried to explain it to me, didn't quite click. but he is working on it not just for classical homocystinuria, which we gave him a grant for, but he's also has projects for cobalamin disorders and severe MTHFR. And while he was there, he actually presented on his work for severe MTHFR. And then also while we were there, this is Tomas Matern. Tomas is one of the researchers we've also given a grant to for classical homocystinuria. And what's exciting about this is that he actually, he presented a poster and a presentation, but the information for the poster that's here on the right has been published into one of the most prestigious, highly ranked journals in the field of redox biology. And it clarified the mechanism of action for classical homocystinuria and its degradation of homocysteine and the potential use of a new treatment to boost the enzyme in vivo. I don't know what all that means, but that is his update. But what's great about this was done partially in because of the grant we gave him. So the money that we raised during September, which I'll get to during the Race for Research, is actively being used and presented at these worldwide conferences where the whole world really for metabolic genetics gets to learn and grow with our community. So I just really wanted to make a point of sharing with you guys. This is making a difference, not just to our community, but to the researchers as well that are helping move things forward. And then this is always one of my favorite parts of research too, is giving you an update on our data collection program. We have had 3 new patients enrolled since our July meetup. And so now we're at 106 patients from 35 US states and 23 countries. We've added actually a couple more countries since our last meetup, which is, I think, pretty cool. It really shows that there's a giant global effort to move things forward for our community. And of those 103 that have enrolled, 74 have classical HCU and 32 have cobalamin disorders or severe MTHFR. There's a problem though with this data. And so this is where the next couple of slides start to break down a little bit. So of the 106, only 71 have completed the head to toe survey. And the head to toe survey is really where the data starts making a huge difference. It's great to know these patients exist and where they are, but what we need to know is how homocystinuria presents in them and how it evolves over time. Let's see, where did my mouse go? Oh, I'm on the wrong screen. And bear with me here. So I'm not going to go into great detail here, but if you're enrolled, please go in and fill out that head to toe survey. If you have filled it out, then the next thing to do is to make sure it's up to date. You want to be updating that at least once a year, and that can help drive things forward here. And so as of right now, of the 71 participants that we have, these are the top 5 areas, which I feel some of these we know really well. We know patients have vision issues, and that's more than half of them. And then also the central nervous system issues, that's also about half. But what surprises us is these digestive issues, which aren't very well noted in the literature. But I think if you're a parent or a patient, you recognize these things more likely. And so these are helping us kind of untangle this, but we need a lot more patients to go in and fill that head to toe survey so we understand, is this actually truly a majority thing, or is it just the patients that we currently have now? So the more patients that enroll, the more patients that fill out these surveys, the better the understanding we have. And then we can start looking at what are those digestive issues and what might be the underlying causes. Is it our treatments? Is it something else more in the formation? And then 32 of the 71 had developmental issues. which we know is very common with late diagnosed patients, and also in our remethylation cohort if they're not started on treatment right away. And then 32 of the 71 also have growth issues. So they could be short in stature or very tall, which we see on both sides of the spectrum, depending on what type of homocystinuria you have. And so, again, we make the call to action here, and that is, if you have not joined RareX, please do. It's homocystinuria.rare-x.org, and then you can create an account. It's pretty quick, and then all the surveys are pretty easy, and they'll tell you an estimation of how long it would take to complete. But the great thing is that you can always stop midway through and then go back later and complete them. So you can spend 5 minutes at a time, or you can spend an hour at a time, depending on what time you do have available. And so this is one of the things that I love about RareX, is that we strongly believe that because you as patients and parents are entering data, we believe that you should get data back in return. And so the thing is that, again, this only represents the 71 patients who have entered their data. So in July, it was Vision Awareness Month, and so we pulled data to go around that. And you can see we have it broken down by classical homocystinuria and cobalamin and severe MTHFR here. In honor of back to school in August, we did one on the Violin-3, which is really designed, it's an assessment to help guide conversation with your child's school to see if they need further accommodations. And there's a podcast episode around that too. And then September was Newborn Screening Awareness Month. And so we really highlighted the fact that we know so many patients, again, are being missed. And so here is our podcast episode that we had. This is a great way to kind of stay up to date on what is happening with the data collection program and have a more enriched experience in interaction. So Stephanie Hitty was a presenter at our conference in one of our breakouts, and then she came on in August to kind of with the back to school. And then we had our Newborn Screening Awareness Month episode, where Ben interviewed Dylan Simon from the Every Life Foundation, and then Dr. Nina Champagne about red flags. And so she's a geneticist in South Carolina, and we are currently working on our HCU Awareness Month episode, which those are always released most of the time, like 90% of the time on the last Thursday of the month. And so we encourage you to subscribe if you're an Apple Podcast listener or Spotify or whichever podcast player that you use. Or you can also go to our website and listen to them as well. We are to the tail end here, and then I will open it up. Fundraising is the next, and I have to say, this has been probably the most exciting race for research to date. And so the race for research lasts the entire month of September, and all funds go to research. And so this year we had 2 corporate teams, 24 total teams. So we had more total teams, but we did have less participants. Part of that is just because we changed the structure a little bit of our race. So it's individual registrations versus family. And that was just to really truly clarify how many people were signing up for the race. It was very confusing prior to that and added a lot of extra work. But what's so amazing about this is that we have so far raised over $65,000. Our goal is $50,000. Last year, we just met that goal. And so we're looking at what we want our goal to be in the future. But to give you guys an idea of what $65,000 means, one research grant is $50,000. So this will put things. They each get broken down. So over 16,000 will go to classical homocystinuria. Over 7,000 will go to our combined cobalamin disorder. So that's the MMA HCU line. And then one of our fantastic fundraisers, which I will show on the next slide, raised a ton for the isolated, which is cobalamin E and G. And so she really knocked it out of the ballpark there. And then we have about $5,000 for severe MTHFR. And there was a total of about 4,500, 4,500 miles logged also. So there's still, if you still want to make a donation for one of the research funds, you still can. You can shoot me an email and just let me know that you would like it earmarked, because anything coming in from October to December 31st, otherwise will get earmarked for our end of year appeal, which I'll discuss here in a second. And so these are a couple of the fundraisers that we want to highlight. These were families that had in-person events that we know of. There might have been others, but they have not reached out to us and hadn't shared. But Dana Hunt and her family hosted a fundraiser in Kansas, and they partnered with a restaurant that donated 50% of proceeds to the Race for Research. And there's Carson, who you see on this. Let's see if I can get my mouse to work here. Right over here. He is a cobalamin G patient who rode over 150 miles over the course of September despite being legally blind. And so he finished his final trek at the restaurant, and so everyone in the community got to celebrate that achievement with him while purchasing a meal to donate back. And they also had a silent auction fundraiser also. So they've right now are over, I think she gave me an update this weekend of like about $25,000. So we are just so blown away by the commitment and tenacity this family shows. And also we have another family in Colorado. Their son has cobalamin C, and they did a cornhole fundraiser. Also, I believe they had a little bit of a silent auction too. And so they raised just over $3,000, which is amazing. I'm a terrible fundraiser, so anyone who can raise anything is doing a fantastic job, and we appreciate all the families. We will have a more robust banner that we'll have on our website later in November with all the teams that raised over $500, which is going to be packed this year because there are a ton of families that raised well over $500. So thank you to everyone for your participation. Your donations and fundraisers are truly making a difference in our community. And so what is next? I just very briefly mentioned this. We have our end of year giving campaign, and these are donations that are matched up to $25,000 total. And it can be your dollars, it can be, you can donate and then your company can match it. So it can be matched twice, essentially. This is a great way to actually boost things. But this goes into our community outreach and education programs. So one of the things that we launched within the last year were we call them request kits, and I think they're a really cool tool, but they have really been well received, and we've actually sent out I want to say it's over 50 of them, but we are well past our goal. And so these things cost money, but it's amazing for the community support and helping onboard new families with these new diagnoses. So we highly appreciate these, so do the families, and it also helps us with some of our advocacy efforts as well. And it will also go towards our 2026 conference, as we're already in the process of planning 2026, and those local community meetups as well, Texas being our first one. So I believe that is it. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and stop recording.